Asawo, Ereawo, Kubiri. First, I'd like to say a very big welcome to everybody who has made that time to be here. We understand that because of the nature of work of our people, some of our people are still on their way to this place. But it's very important that I give a background of why we're here. On the 25th of this month, we all witnessed that a factional set of the Grand Chieftaincy House in Bonny Kingdom went on a very fancy installation of some persons who ordinarily should be Wari Senapu or Warubu Senapu of their various Bulusus to install and elevate them as chiefs in Bonny Kingdom. We find it as an affront to our custom and the tradition of Bonny Kingdom. And we know that the Bonny Youth Federation and the Ogbobiri Asawo of Bonny Kingdom, these are two bodies by our Bonny custom and tradition, saddled with the responsibility of protecting the image, the sanctity, and the culture of our beloved people. And so, on the 27th, we met here and we had a discussion about it. And in that meeting, clearly we condemned in totality what was done in Burn House by the factional set led by Dago Ulamba Brown, who ordinarily is not even a chief, how much more to install others as chief. And because we feel that the future belongs to the youth and the future belongs to us, we cannot sit back and watch a few set of people, one maybe out of greed, decide to distort our history. For us, it's an aberration to the history of Bonny Kingdom. And it is not in our time that we are going to sit back and watch people bastardize what was passed on to us by our forebears. This is the same one kingdom that we are going to also pass to those who will come after us. So it is very imperative that yes, we come here and brief the world, brief the press. We want the world to know that it is not us, it is alien in our culture and norms. And we decided to use this opportunity to brief the press. As you can see on the high table, we have the chairman of Bonny Kingdom, Ogbobiri Asawo. No other person than Mr. Eugene John Jomo is here with us. We also have the secretary of the Ogbobiri Asawo is here with us, the media publicity. My very self, I'm the youth leader by the grace of God of Bonny Kingdom. We also have the former youth leader, Mr. Willie Pepple of Bonny Youth Federation is also here with us. We also have the outgoing, the just immediate past secretary of the Bonny Local Government Council is also here with us. Behind us, we have the youth leaders of the various chieftaincy houses also present and here with us. And so together, we're here to brief the press to make them understand that this is alien to our culture and it's alien to our tradition. It is very, very important that we begin to tell our people the truth. It is very, very important. We cannot shy away from the truth. We have existed as a kingdom for over 400 years. And so people cannot wake up and begin to give us cut and join history. One of the things that we must understand as a people is that the average Bonny man knows the history of the Brown House man. The average Toby man knows the history of the Hard House man. And we all know our history. It's not because we're in the era of social media you feel you can put any information that does not conform with our identity and then you expect us to sit back and we can't do that. For the purpose of our children, for the purpose of those unborn, we cannot do that. And so it is very important that even as we live here, we begin to tell our children the history. Perhaps it's a problem. Maybe we have not been doing that and that's why we are seeing all of this rascality. All of this rascality everywhere on social media. Everybody trying to pick up one document from online. And what is Google? Whatever you put in Google is what you get. If I go embark on any thesis and put it on Google, when you research on it, you will see it. It does not define us as a people. Whatever you think you're putting in England does not define us as a people. We know how we got here, and we know how we've been a kingdom. So we want to encourage everybody, go back and ask the history of the Bulusus. Go back and ask the history of your house. If you don't know, It's better we know. So that this a very few set of, ridiculous mindset cannot continue confusing us of our culture. We know our culture, we know our custom, we know our history, and we know our throne. The every essence of the Bonny man is the throne of Bonny Kingdom. If you don't know, go and ask. We have other kingdoms existing, we have other empires who have been there for other kingdoms, and we don't see things like this happen. So that's why we're here. And so we want to encourage us. We have our brother here, who is the public secretary of the Bonny Federation, Tony Willie. He is going to be reading out the communique for us. And after that, we are very, very much happy to receive questions, to answer to your questions. And thank you as you listen to us. God bless you all. Thank you.
Chairman, Bonny Kingdom of Ereawo, and the executive of Bonny Kingdom of Ereawo, representing the 34 chieftaincy houses and the Ereawo House. Respected leader Ereawo, Kubiri, Bonny Youth Federation, Mr. Anthony Banigo, representing the 34 chieftaincy houses and the Ereawo House. Respected Chairman of Bonny Chieftaincy Houses Youth Leaders Forum, Mr. Kubiri, representing 34 chieftaincy houses and the Ereawo House. A communique by the joint meeting of Bonny Kingdom, Ogbobiri and Asawo, Ereawo, Kubiri, the Bonny Youth Federation, delivered on Sunday, April 27, 2025. This is a press statement of our communique from the meeting we had on Sunday. Background: the Bonny Kingdom of Asawo and the Asawo and Ereawo Bonny Youth Federation are by native law and custom, though now with English nomenclature, bodies established by the traditional institution to coordinate the activities of adults and young adults within the Grand Bonny Kingdom structure towards the well-being of the kingdom and peaceful coexistence of all members of the Bonny society within the kingdom. These bodies are, among many other things, saddled with the responsibility of protecting the sanctity, image, and dignity of the Bonny ethnic nationality, which has as one of its strong instruments of unity the office, person, and position of the Ereawo or Grand Bonny Kingdom, also referred to as the Bonny throne. It is considering the above responsibility that the Asawo and the Bonny Youth Federation jointly deemed it fit at this time to convoke a gathering of its members. In this August convocation, the following points were reached as agreements to be disseminated to the public. 1. Following the events of April 25th, Friday and Saturday, April 26, 2025, it was observed that some members of the Brown Chieftaincy Major House had on their own volition, without recourse to the established traditional and customary protocol of Grand Bonny Kingdom, to which they belong, gone on a frenzy of installation and capping of some of its members, who at best should be Walibu Senate or Wali Senate as chiefs within the Brown Chieftaincy Major House of Grand Bonny Kingdom, thereby carrying out an action considered an aberration to the traditions of the kingdom. The unrestrained and continuous use of the term Amadago or Finima by and in reference to Elder Lambert Gogo Brown, a member of the Brown Chieftaincy Major House. 3. The presentation of some of its members of the Brown Major Chieftaincy House to Elder Lambert Gogo Brown, as chiefs, as it were being presented to a reigning monarch. It has become imperative to put the record straight, and beyond that, also call for immediate measures to forestall an imminent and foreboding community crisis, which the aforementioned scenario has the potential to create. Brief history of the foundation of Finima. Bonny Kingdom is recorded to have emerged around the 14th century from the Kolokuma area through today's Ndoki axis down to Kubiri, with its first three leaders being Ndoli Yogbara, Opamakiba, and Alagbaria. Asimini was crowned king of Grand Bonny Kingdom in 1420. It was during the reign 1600 to 1635 of the Bonny warrior king Dapaya Makli that the original inhabitants, then known as the Yanko people of the place in Bonny Kingdom, known and renamed Finima today, were forced out. The Bonny Kingdom wanted to bring under his control all the various indigenous nationalities, in brackets, which is Abalama, Ifoko, Iyanko, Epelema, Asarama, Alabie, Ogogo, and Ede in the area. Majority of the Yanko people in the area were chased out to their present location in Tombia, and those of them who remained came under the control of the king, including the area now called Finima. Perekule, a blooded prince and a son of Prince Sirie, became king in 1700 after King Hausa. Perekule, having become king and having been given all rights and privileges to have his direct primogeniture successors after him, assumed similar authority. Thenceforth created what is today known as chiefs and chieftaincy houses in Grand Bonny Kingdom. Brown Chieftaincy Major House of Grand Bonny Kingdom. It is common knowledge, cast in historic concrete in Bonny Kingdom, that the Brown Chieftaincy Major House was created in 1826 for Chief Omuso Oko, translated in the Bonny as Bo Brown. Chief Omuso Bo Brown, who was made a chief by King Opubo Perekule III, was installed and capped by Chief Adam of Ubarahat, his guardian, in 1826 in the Hat Major House of Kubiri. Boy Omuso was about 9 years old at the time he was redeemed. Omuso is the first chief and founder of Brown Chieftaincy Major House. He was born into the family of War, also known as Oko, his father, by Madam Bilaro being the woman who later also bore Awanta for Konibo, the Juju priest of Epaniyana Simeki, making Omuso and Awanta uterine siblings. That is, children of the same mother. War, the father of Omuso and his elder ones, was himself the son of Nwolo, popularly called Wolo in the Bonny, a blacksmith of Igbo origin, precisely Ohambili, who came with a fellow woman, Onyasola, earlier brought by son of a boss family in Bonny from Okrika. Wolo settled down with an Andoni woman named Ngak, and the union produced Bo. It is worthy of note that Onyasola, who brought in Wolo, both of whom are Bonny from Okrika, was redeemed into the family of Sono. Sono was also from the family of Epo. The above having been established, the Brown House itself as we have it today, as a chieftaincy house, was a product of King Ogbobiri III, and its creation stemmed from the adoption of Omuso by King Fubara Perekule II, when Omuso, being of a different mother from his brothers, was sold into slavery by them at a young age, and was redeemed by the King Fubara in 1792. upon recognition that Omuso had become an Ibani citizen. Omuso grew up as a member of the Minoru Hat Ulusoyo of the Hat Green House under the care of Chief Adam of Obara Hat, and became a very successful, patriotic Ibani man. He was made a chief in 1826 by King Ogbobiri after he was installed and capped by Chief Adam of Obara Hat. Omuso was also nicknamed Jack, a name which his son Bonny was also identified with in later years. Bonny was also called Chief Jack Bonny in recorded history. Named his house Brown, which was his trade name by the Europeans, just like Jumbo, Hat, Alice, etc., houses that had their names corrupted into English. He was sent back to Finima, and the town was known as Juju Town. With some members of the Hat Main House, in the same year, the house was created for him by King Ogbobiri, which is one of the reasons why there exist today members of Hat Major House in Finima. Since 1826, when the Brown House was created for Chief Omuso Brown, to the time of Chief Ibo B. Brown, all chiefs of the Brown Chieftaincy Major House have always been presented to the Amanabo of Grand Bonny Kingdom, and as a matter of fact, have proudly played significant roles as members of the Maniwari group of houses over the years. The above history may not fit into the narrative of today's sinister revisionist historians, as it clearly does not present the Brown House as being from Congo, who is claimed to have established Finima. Simple logic itself shows that, assuming but not conceding that the Brown House originated from Congo through Prince Ereawo, two questions emerge. One, how did Brown House's claim to Ibani royalty emerge if the Ereawo in their history was the son of Congo, who himself was never recorded orally or in written form as having been a king in Bonny or anywhere else for that matter? As a matter of fact, Congo never arrived in Finima. It was Alomi, the ancestor of Awanta, who arrived in Finima. How could Ereawo, who in their narrative was the direct son of Congo, have become the same Prince Ereawo who bettered or redeemed Solo, the man that brought Onyasola from Africa, through whom Wolo, the father of Wo, the father of Omuso, emerged? 3. Given that Congo is recorded and claimed even by some revisionists as having arrived in Yango before Alabaria, if Alabaria's party arrived in Okoloma in the 14th century, it stands to such logic that Congo's arrival around February was clearly within the same time frame. How then could the direct son of Congo live to become the same Prince Ereawo who reigned as part of the Quatamvirate with King Abusa in the 17th or 18th century? While this history may be burdensome to the impatient, it has become necessary to clearly present it for public logical evaluation of certain unfounded claims, which have become the foundation of disregard for Bonny Kingdom's age-old customs, Bonny Chieftaincy customs and traditions. Since the time of King Perekule I, when he created the first chieftaincy house, that is Moju Allison House, in 1740, Grand Bonny Kingdom has operated the chieftaincy housing system, which at the time was more inclined towards business, development, and existed as it were as companies for the purposes of trade and war. The houses existed for two reasons: war and trade in that time. The manner and customs of creating chiefs by the successive kings of Bonny Kingdom after King Perekule I, either Kalawari or Ogbobiri, have largely been the same for over 285 years and are described as follows. At the death of a chief, The elders, Warupu Senyapu and Wari Senyapu of the house, shall elect one among the family members to henceforth lead them as Waralabo before he is presented to the Bonny king for him to be received as Sealabo. This election is made known to the general Bonny public by an event in which the person elected will be installed and capped by the elders of his house. In the case of a Kalawari house or special circumstances of even a major house, he will be installed and capped by the chief of the major house, or the house that has a link with that house. After this first phase, the second and final phase will be the presentation of the installed and capped house chief, Waralabo, to the Amanabo, who thereafter grants authority to the presented person to become a Banisalabo or Amalabo, which is a Nebani country chief. This tradition has endured over the years and has been legally provided for in the Constitution of Grand Bonny Kingdom. See Section 6, subsections A, B, C of the Constitution of Bonny Kingdom. Furthermore, this provision of the Constitution has been given the power of judicial interpretation in suit number BHC 42, 2018, between Sealabo Lieutenant Colonel Aminobu Akowe Manila Pepo retired versus King Edward Asimiliwida and Napa Pepo III, CON JP, Proclaimed 11, Amayabo of Brown Kingdom, and Anos, by Justice A.U. Kingsley Chukwu, quoted below. I have also looked at the definition of a chief in the Constitution of Bonny Kingdom, which stipulates the chief shall be the head of a house, duly installed by the elders, principal and majority members of his house, and presented to the chief's council. Thus, a chief cannot exist and function in his house alone without being presented to the chief's council. If it were so, the Constitution would have made it optional. Also, in the consent judgment in suit number PAC 15497 between the Bonny Chiefs Council and Yibo Brown by Justice E. Tetito, quoted below, the Amanabo is a revered institution with the authority to inquire into and correct actions contrary to the customs and traditions of Bonny. The above history and legal presentations make it illogical, unreasonable, and unlawful for some members of the Brown Chieftaincy Major House to get up under any guise whatsoever to attempt the recognition of persons as chiefs styled as Amalabo. It is also common knowledge that barely a week ago, an injunction was granted by the customary court in Bonny in suit number BNCC ROS 2 2025 between Elder Hamilton Papana Brown, Moses Brown, as concerned blue bloods of Brown Chieftaincy House, and Abiye Brown, restraining such events from holding. It therefore defies imagination that Elder Lambert Gogo Brown would, in gross disobedience of a court of competent jurisdiction, continue with the sad events of that day. Of course, this disobedience will not be without legal consequences, as it is tried law stemming from Benjamin McFoy versus USA Limited that you cannot keep something or nothing and let it stand. Furthermore, it is an affront and a grave confrontation against the established norms of Grand Bonny Kingdom for Senator Lambert Gogo Brown to assume the role of receiving people into a so-called Federal Council of Chiefs, when he himself is not a recognized chief of Bonny Kingdom, as outlined in the Constitution of Grand Bonny Kingdom and interpreted in the judgment of Justice A.U. Kingsley Chukwu. For the avoidance of doubt, Sealabo Evans C.B. Brown is the chief of Brown House in the Bonny Chiefs Council now. Intents and motives. While it is common with oil and gas host communities to say that oil and gas has been a curse rather than a blessing, We think differently because we believe the generality of Bonny people believe that the resources within our environment are blessings from the Almighty God. It is the inability of the society within which these resources are located to manage these blessings and ensuring that greed does not destroy any benefit thereof that has been the major issues. The Ogbobiri Asawo and Asawo and Ereawo Kubiri find the actions of Senator Lambert Gogo Brown to be insulting to the entire sensibility of Grand Bonny Kingdom and what it has stood for over many years. It is even more mind-boggling when one realizes that the conspicuous driving force behind this ill-advised path taken by some of the individuals in the Brown House is a selfish desire to be the sole beneficiary of the multinational oil and gas installations in Bonny Kingdom. At every turn, this section of the Brown House members, not all of them, promotes a flawed narrative about being the host community for LNG, Shell, Mobile, etc. This narrative, which they know is erroneous and unfounded, has driven them to pursue various questionable routes, such as what was witnessed on Friday and Saturday, April 25th and 26th, 2025, just to seek some form of legitimacy. Assuming again but not conceding that LNG, Mobile and Shell are located on Finima community land, the following questions demand answers. 1. Is the Finima community not part of the original 14 old settlements, Okonoma and Tekrifaja? That is Kubiri, Oloma, Minima, Ayaminima, Iloma, Abalawabie, Febriama, Kuruma, Ndakurama, Ekelama, Kalibiama, Okwama, and Finima of Grand Bonny Kingdom. 2. Is Finima community not inhabited by 3 independent chieftaincy houses, Attorney, Brown, and Toby? Not by Brown House alone. 3. Without the pipelines and water wells that convey oil, gas, and water to Shell, Mobile, and LNG facilities, would any operation take place at these facilities in Finima? Are these pipelines and water wells not located across different communities of Grand Bonny Kingdom owned by different chieftaincy houses? 5. In the case of environmental hazards, have all communities in Bonny not been affected one way or the other by the multinational activities? The Ogbobiri Asawo and Asawo and Ereawo gathered in this August convocation, therefore, make the following demands. 1. That we recognize one indivisible Grand Bonny Kingdom under the leadership of no other than our monarch, His Majesty King Edward Asimini William Dapapepo III, Edward I, Regulate the 11th, Commander of the Order of the Niger, Distinguished Service Star of River State, Justice of the Peace, the natural ruler and admirer of Grand Bonny Kingdom. 2. We also recognize only one Council of Chiefs, which is the Bonny Chiefs Council, currently chaired by His Excellency Sialakwa Lieutenant Colonel Ambassador Dagogo S. Claude Wilcox, member of the Order of the Niger. 3. That we recognize the existing traditional structures of the kingdom, which makes no provision for any council of chiefs under any guise whatsoever in all the communities under the age-old dominion and territorial control of Grand Bonny Kingdom. The federal government. 4. The federal government through its agencies such as the Department of State Security, the Nigerian Police Force, and the Nigerian Armed Forces should immediately move to enforce the judicial interpretations of the Bonny Constitution to prevent any potential breakdown of law and order through communal crisis that could be detrimental to the businesses in Grand Bonny Kingdom. 5. The attention of the multinational companies, LNG Limited, Mobile, producing now separate, Shell Petroleum Development Company, now Renaissance, and other corporate bodies doing business in that Bonny Kingdom be drawn to the fact that they should refrain from transacting in any form by way of CSR and any other business with any group that may hereinafter refer to themselves as the Finima Council of Chiefs, the Finima Community Trust Development, or any such nomenclature that may arise today or in the future, attributing autonomy to themselves. Should the corporate bodies enter such transactions without involving the entire Bonny Kingdom, the kingdom shall not hesitate to pursue to a logical conclusion all legal means necessary to ensure the cessation and frustration of their business interests on the land of our forefathers. 7. All corporate stakeholders mentioned above, including Senator Lambert Ogbobiri and his co-travelers, should take note that it is not that the rest of Bonny Kingdom do not know what to do, but it is out of deep and patriotic respect for the rule of law of the Nigerian government, being the dispensation we have all found ourselves today, that this part of sensible discussions are being undertaken. These calls we make, however, should not be mistaken in any guise for cowardice or inability to contend ferociously for the territorial control and integrity of every inch of Grand Bonny Kingdom, as was done by our forebears. A word is sufficient for the wise. This is signed by Mr. Eugene Jumbo, Chairman, Bonny Kingdom of Asawo, Mr. Anthony Johnson Barrego, Leader, Ereawo Kubiri, the BYF, Vice Senator Honorable Derek Sokari Harry Secondus, General Secretary Bonny Kingdom of Asawo, Omoni Silvano San, General Secretary Ereawo Kubiri, BYF, on behalf of all concerned bodies. Thank you very much.
Any questions to ask? Please feel free to ask, and then we're also going to make available copies of this press briefing to every member of the press here. And we're also going to make a copy of this press briefing to each and every one person seated here. And we're not just going to end there, we'll also ensure that even those at their homes will get this document. Because for the truth, we need to know our history so that we will not be fooled by a very few. So please feel free to ask us any questions. Thank you.
How widely circulated is this? I'm loud enough. How widely circulated is this constitution? How many people in Bonny? How many people in Bonny has the constitution and have access to it? Secondly, in line with the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution that recognizes freedom of association and the individual rights of human beings as in persons and groups, how does the provisions of the Constitution and the provisions of the court's judgments you have referenced, how do they apply? Because somebody in Brown House, especially the Idabeli Brown School of Thought, may say we are operating under the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, and it recognizes my right to stand anywhere. And then there is also a judgment by one of the high courts in Rivers State about one of the families in Ile Kingdom that told the family in particular, forgetting the name now, that should they want to establish a different kingdom for themselves outside the Ile Kingdom, they would need to leave the geographical location identified as Ile Kingdom. Does that also apply to the Bonny Kingdom? Thank you, sir.
Is widely publicized. In fact, it is the instrument for making a chief in Bonny. All the 34 houses, as long as they have chiefs, the constitution is there. Most houses, like my own for instance, we have it to the extent that even the youth body have the constitution. The problem we have is that of the communication gap. Some houses are not in flow with what is happening at the center. But to say that the constitution is hidden or it is not politicized is not true. It is. Then the second one you ask again, we have customary courts that, if not all the time, their duty is to handle customary cases. The customary cases that are in line, although we know in our constitution, the context of the Nigerian constitution, that when it comes to do with the constitution of the place and that of the country, that of the context presidents. But then, customary issues are recognized. The case that we are under review, of course, is being handled in the customary courts. Unfortunately, our society is made up of some people that, I'm sorry to say, that are suffering from what we call antisocial personality disorder. People that will always want to break laws for their selfish reason. It's not as if they don't know that there's a constitution and there's a constitution. Let me stop so far.
The case you mentioned, if they wanted to leave Billy to join or to make for themselves a kingdom. You see, the country Nigeria is not even up to 90 years old. When we entered this country, Nigeria, the country, even under the constitution, recognizes that there are different ethnic groups and different tribes. And if you look at the boundary adjustment of River State, the Bonny Kingdom has its territory. We know our territory. That we live in the Bonny Kingdom does not mean that we don't know. We know our territory. We know our boundaries with the Gonis. We know our boundaries with the Calabaris. And further into the ocean is Bonny Kingdom. So let me tell you, it is very simple. If that particular few members of the Grand House want to create for themselves a kingdom, they can leave the entire territory of this kingdom. Because we have said it and it is very, very clear. It is very, very clear. It's not like we don't know what to do. It is very, very clear. It is very, very clear. No inch of this kingdom will be lost to that reality. It is very, very clear. So if they want to make a kingdom for themselves, it's not a problem. They can go across any other place and make it, but not here in Bonny Kingdom. We will continue to remain one Bonny Kingdom under one monarch, and that's what we're known for.
Since the declaration of this, what are the actions to be taken? Since the self-acclaimed, according to the way we put it, the self-acclaimed chief Ogbobiri has declared chiefs and elders, what are the actions to be taken?
You cannot keep something on nothing and expect it to stand. And so, every action that we need to take under the law of this country, we will take. And that's why we're also using the opportunity to call also on the government. Because who will be the sufferers? So, we rest assured that every action that we need to take, we will take. And time has gone past when we will sit back and watch this nonsense strike. As a matter of fact, we are going to ensure that it comes to an end.
Actions is what we are doing today. There are some days ago we condemned the action, and today communique is being issued. We are condemning it, and we call on all of you, all well-meaning indigenous, to join to condemn it. When we condemn it, if you join us to condemn it, it means that it stands condemned and unwelcome. That's the action.